Okay, hopefully we'll get back to these. Sorry it's been such a long time since I last recorded an RBT video. I was unwell at end of October, beginning of November, and then various events have just meant I've not been able to get up and running. But hopefully we'll be back on track now, and I'll hopefully do a couple of videos this week, and then I'm on leave next week, and then we'll get back into it, hopefully until we finish the end of the 3-year scheme in August. That's the plan. We'll see how we go. I think one lesson that's been learnt in the last year, or if not the last 3 years in a fresh way, is that we have a sovereign God, and his plans prevail and not ours, and we need to learn to trust him. So we find ourselves in the book of Ezekiel at the moment. Ezekiel is a prophet and a priest operating at the time of the exile. He's himself carried into exile, into Babylon, at times of great turmoil, times when people needed to hear God's word but often were unready to hear it, didn't like the message. And so Ezekiel is speaking at that time. He's speaking of God's judgment on his own people, but also there's great hope in the book of Ezekiel as well. But perhaps what stands out in Ezekiel more than the other prophecies is the incredible visions of the throne room of God and the presence of God in the temple departing. These are particularly striking. Where we land today, we are into 2 chapters of judgment on nations around Israel. Israel's been taken into captivity, into exile. God's judgment has fallen on them, but now God's judgment falls on the nations around. I'll read the 2 chapters straight through because there's one big lesson to highlight, and which we can learn from as we do so. The word of the Lord came to me: Son of man, set your face against the Ammonites and prophesy against them. Say to them, hear the word of the Lord, the sovereign Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Because you said, aha, over my sanctuary when it was desecrated, and over the land of Israel when it was laid waste, and over the people of Judah when they went into exile, therefore I am going to give you to the people of the east as a possession. They will set up their camps and pitch their tents among you. They will eat your fruit and drink your milk. I will turn Rabbah into a pasture for camels, and Ammon into a resting place for sheep. Then you will know that I am the Lord. For this is what the sovereign Lord says: because you have clapped your hands and stamped your feet, rejoicing with all the malice of your heart against the land of Israel, therefore I will stretch out my hand against you, and give you as plunder to the nations. I will wipe you out from among the nations, and exterminate you from the countries. I will destroy you, and you will know that I am the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says: because Moab and Seir said, look, Judah has become like all the other nations, therefore I will expose the flank of Moab, beginning at its frontier towns, Beth Jeshimoth, Baal Meon, and Kiriathim, the glory of that land. I will give Moab along with the Ammonites to the people of the east as a possession, so that the Ammonites will not be remembered among the nations. And I will inflict punishment on Moab, then they will know that I am the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says: because Edom took revenge on Judah and became very guilty by doing so, therefore this is what the sovereign Lord says: I will stretch out my hand against Edom and kill both man and beast. I will lay it waste, and from Teman to Dedan they will fall by the sword. I will take vengeance on Edom by the hand of my people Israel, and they will deal with Edom in accordance with my anger and my wrath. They will know my vengeance, declares the sovereign Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says: because the Philistines acted in vengeance and took revenge with malice in their hearts, and with ancient hostility sought to destroy Judah, therefore this is what the sovereign Lord says: I am about to stretch out my hand against the Philistines, and I will wipe out the Kerethites and destroy those remaining along the coast. I will carry out great vengeance on them and punish them in my wrath. Then they will know that I am the Lord when I take vengeance on them. In the 11th month of the 12th year, on the first day of the month, the word of the Lord came to me: Son of man, because Tyre has said of Jerusalem, aha, the gate to the nations is broken, and its doors are swung open to me. Now that she lies in ruin, I will prosper. Therefore this is what the sovereign Lord says: I am against you, Tyre, and I will bring many nations against you, like the sea casting up its waves. They will destroy the walls of Tyre and pull down her towers. I will scrape away her rubble and make her a bare rock. Out in the sea she will become a place to spread fishing nets, for I have spoken, declares the sovereign Lord. She will become plunder for the nations, and her settlements on the mainland will be ravaged by the sword. Then they will know that I am the Lord. For this is what the sovereign Lord says: From the north I'm going to bring against Tyre Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, king of kings, with horses and chariots, with horsemen and a great army. He will ravage your settlements on the mainland with the sword. He will set up siege works against you, build a ramp up to your walls, and raise his shields against you. He will direct the blows of his battering rams against your walls and demolish your towers with his weapons. His horses will be so many that they will cover you with dust. Your walls will tremble at the noise of the war horses, wagons and chariots, when he enters your gates as men enter a city whose walls have been broken through. The hooves of his horses will trample all your streets. He will kill your people with the sword, and your strong pillars will fall to the ground. They will plunder your wealth and loot your merchandise. They will break down your walls and demolish your fine houses and throw your stones, timber and rubble into the sea. I will put an end to your noisy songs, and the music of your harps will be heard no more. I will make you a bare rock, and you will become a place to spread fishing nets. You will never be rebuilt. For I, the Lord, have spoken, declares the sovereign Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says to Tyre. Will not the coastlands tremble at the sound of your fall, when the wounded groan and the slaughter takes place in you? Then all the princes of the coast will step down from their thrones and lay aside their robes and take off their embroidered garments. Clothed with terror, they will sit on the ground, trembling every moment, appalled at you. And they will take up a lament concerning you and say to you, how you are destroyed, city of renown, peopled by men of the sea. You are a power on the seas, you and your citizens. You put your terror on all who live there. Now the coastlands tremble on the day of your fall. The islands and the sea are terrified at your collapse. This is what the sovereign Lord says. When I make you a desolate city, like cities no longer inhabited, and when I bring the ocean depths over you and its vast waters cover you, then I will bring you down with those who go down to the pit, to the people of long ago. I will make you dwell in the earth below, as in ancient ruins, with those who go down to the pit, and you will not return or take your place in the land of the living. I will bring you to a horrible end, and you will be no more. You will be sought, but you will never again be found, declares the sovereign Lord. So here are 4 prophecies against Ammon, Moab, Edom, and Philistia in chapter 25, and then one against Tyre in chapter 26. And the reason God's judgment is falling on these places, which geographically were around the borders of the land of God's people, was because of their attitude to God's people when they were taken into exile, as they made the most of Israel's fall and plundered and mocked and strengthened themselves through Israel's weakness. And God says to them, because of the way you've treated my people, I will bring judgment on you. And then particularly that's fleshed out in chapter 26. The first 4 are fairly brief, but in chapter 26 it's fleshed out because Tyre is a trading port. It's a hub of a vast network of economic wealth, and its ruin is an utter shock to the neighbouring region as this place of great wealth falls into ruins. 2 lessons then simply for us to learn today. Firstly, do you remember when God promised Abraham a great big family? He said, whoever blesses you I will bless, and whoever curses you I will curse. Well, these nations cursed God's people, and they received God's curse. As Jesus paints Judgment Day and how the 2 groups of people, those destined for glory and those destined for judgment, are characterised, what is it that divides them? It's their care for his own people. Those who gave them a cup of cold water and clothed them and fed them are those who demonstrate the life of the kingdom. Those who ignored and did not care for God's people are those who demonstrate the life of darkness. And so the consistent testimony of both Old and New Testaments is that people will be judged on how they treat God's people. That's a great encouragement to those of us who are believers, who love our brothers and sisters, no matter what their status. It's a challenge to those of us who claim to be God's people and yet are pretty unloving towards our brothers and sisters. It's a great reassurance to those of us who are followers of Jesus, who at the moment are finding it really tough going. The world is treating us badly because of our profession of faith. One day, God says, vengeance is mine, and those who oppress his people will be judged. It's not for us to do that, and it's not for us to fight back, but to trust in the God who in his own time will exalt his people and will judge those opposed to them. So let's check our own hearts. Let's make sure that we are loving God's people as we ought. Let's take encouragement if we're having a hard time that in good time God will bring his judgment on those who are opposed to his people. And may God bless you as you go through today, whatever challenges it may bring you.